Jeg er på den italienske Global Series Festival, som bliver holdt for første gang. Og her har jeg mødt en af mine kollegaer, John Bleasdale, som har skrevet en bog om en af de helt store mesterinstruktører. You have actually written a book about one of the great masters today in today's cinema, Terrence Malick. Your book is called The Magic Hours of and Films and The Magic Hours, the Films and Hidden Life of Terrence Malick.
That's right. Yeah, The Magic Hours is named after the time that Terrence Malick typically shot his first two films, which is the hours. The name comes from cinematographers talking about the hours when the sun has just gone down and there's still light in the air. It's very difficult to get the shots, but when you get them, they're beautiful. And especially in his second film, Days of Heaven, practically all of the film was made in that sort of moment. And it's a time which a painter called Whistler said that warehouses become cathedrals. And I love that idea of transformation, of power that cinema can have.
And if we're talking about Terrence Malick, he's made about 10 feature films only over several decades. And just to name a few, Badlands, Days of Heaven, of course, The Thin Red Line, and in more recent time, things like The Tree of Life, of course, and latest, Hidden Life, about an Austrian that escapes the Nazi or protests the Nazis. Just to name a few of the 10, you know, tell me, John, what's your fascination with Terrence Malick that is so deep that you have to write a whole book about him?
The thing about him, I discovered him when I was a kid and I was first getting into cinema. And he was one of those first directors who really made me think about what it is to make a film and how making a film is a little bit like having the same intellectual weight as a novelist or an artist, really. It had artistry to it, which was really profound, and it went beyond entertainment. And all of his films are entertaining as well, but there was something that really resonated with me. And then there was this mystery about his life that he made these two films in the 1970s, which were not huge hits, but they were really interesting, fascinating films, and by his peers.
And opened eyes by other directors for him.
Absolutely.
For Terrence Malick.
Absolutely. And other directors and his peers were really respectful for this. You know, Michael Cimino, who did The Hunter, said he was our poet. He was the poet king, you know. And then he disappeared for 20 years. Between that, you know, 1978, Days of Heaven, and 1998, Thin Red Line, makes nothing. Not only does he make nothing, he's nowhere. There's no interviews, there's no documentaries, there's no photographs. And in the space of that time, there's just this mysterious legend that grows of this, you know, is he in Paris? Has he become a hairdresser? Has he died? Has he wandered off? And this is also encouraged by the fact that his films are so philosophical and strange. And it just compare that to, say, Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg, who are very, very, very present throughout the 80s and 90s. And they manufacture their own image a lot. I thought, well, Malick doesn't have any of this. I'm completely at a loss as to who this person is. So I wanted to write the book to find out who this person was prior to those 20 years, during those 20 years, and then who he's still as mysterious today as he was then.
Yeah, we don't know much about him. I mean, he grew up in Oklahoma and Texas, and he actually went to both Harvard and Oxford and studied philosophy, but he never got his degree. And he's also been a teacher at MIT in philosophy. But did you investigate in what did he do for those 20 years between Days of Heaven and The Thin Red Line?
Yeah, no, I did. Actually, I mean, he did get his degree, but he didn't finish his MPhil, his postgraduate. Right, and he also, in the middle of that, he also was a reporter for the New Yorker. And so he had like these different careers in like journalism, philosophy, academia, before he started making films. And he always, the old Orson Welles joke, he started at the top and worked his way down. He was always, you know, he didn't start writing journalism for the local newspaper. He started for the New Yorker. You know, he started his academic career in Harvard and in MIT. In the 20 years, I discovered that he was writing. He was doing a lot of work in Paris, script doctoring. There were lots of films
Hmm.
that actually came out which he had a hand in, such as Great Balls of Fire, the
Really?
Dennis Quaid
Ah.
film. A lot of the films that came out afterwards, like The New World, a lot of the Weightless trilogy after Tree of Life itself, were all projects that he had started writing, and he was trying to get made in some way or another, some shape or form. He wrote a script called The English Speaker about Freud and Freud's first patient, who helped Freud develop his whole theory of the
Hmm.
unconscious. So, and he kept in close contact with all his Hollywood friends while living in Paris, between Paris and Texas, to quote a film. um, so he was there. He just wasn't necessarily giving interviews to journalists, and that's sort of been his sort of secret power. Is he's not going to talk to journalists. He's not
That's
going to talk to
also part
people.
of his legend, right? That he's
Yeah,
so mysterious and so secretive. And I think, I mean, the last picture of him, photo taken of him is like way, way back, and he refuses to be photographed and to be on the red carpets and so on. For example, at Cannes Film Festival, you know. So where that adds, I guess, to the mystery, also to the great life around Terrence Malick and to his brand, so to say. Uh, Why is the secret? Do you know? Because you got it. You actually, there's a story. You got in touch with him finally, right?
okay, so right, this is convoluted, and there's only so much I can say because
Ah,
one of the things about uh, any contact with him is he obviously doesn't want to be in contact with people, so he doesn't want it to be out there that this is possible or plausible. So I was indirectly in contact with people who were in contact with him, and he is around. He talks to people. He sends people messages. Martin Scorsese got a letter of appreciation. That I'm Werner Herzog, in his autobiography, mentions Terrence Malick as his one friend who's a film director.
hmm.
So he is talking to lots of people. He's not necessarily public about it. He's not necessarily being published about it, and his friends are largely respectful of that privacy. So it's not that he's a recluse or a hermit. He's just very, very private, and that's a condition you have to agree to if you want to have any sort of relationship with him, professional or otherwise. I talked to a lot of people around him who worked with him, and they were very, very open with me. And I think that partly that was because there was a sort of nod of approval of what I was doing, which I was very grateful for. So I think this is the first book that has been published that has a genuine sort of insider um, angle to the life of Terrence Malick. I will also say that, like anyone of this sort of intellectual height, because I think he is like genius level, just as an individual as well as a filmmaker, um, it's impossible to contain his what he does, his work, and so this will not be the last book in any. It will not be definitive by any, but hopefully it will be the beginning of a way of understanding him, which goes beyond just the legend and the smoke and the mirrors.
Is that an aim for your book? Is it try to for other people to try to understand Malick's films better?
Definitely, especially the later ones where he goes off in very experimental things. And we, frankly, I watched them for the first time, and I'm talking about Night of Cups, To the Wonder, Song to Song, the trilogy of sort of films which are really challenging and experimental. I don't want to necessarily convince people you have to watch these because they're
Mm.
great. I want to say, look, he was trying to do this, and this is the context that I think is most fruitful and interesting to look at it. So you can look at them and think, okay, they still don't work for me, but I think it's more fruitful to understand why they're failing, if you think they're failing, than just to reject them. I think there's something really interesting, and they're very, very closely connected to his biography. So um, this is one of the paradoxes: is he is this hidden character, this hidden life, but this hiding involves making films which are totally autobiographical. Tree of Life is totally his life. Um, to the Wonder is a marriage, a relationship that he had. Knight of Cups is about his experiences in Hollywood in the 70s. It's not set in the 70s, but that's what it is. And Song to Song is also his relationship to music, which he has a very close relationship with. So hopefully, giving that context, you might not watch the films and suddenly love them, but hopefully you'll get much more out of them.
Yeah, that's my experience. I mean, you have to watch a Terrence Malick film several times because the first time it might go, there are a lot of things you miss. Actually, I think of the layers in his stories or how he tells his films because they're very abstract and philosophical often, and he goes out on you know, in ways that can seem very out there. And I know that when I discuss him with people that are not used to watching films, they often go like, "Oh, I don't understand it. It's too complicated for me." And I think there's certainly a lot of people that have that experience of Malick's films. What would you say to them?
I think Malick makes films like as worlds. We have this phrase cinematic universe, and it's used for comic books and stuff. But it's also about we all live in different worlds. We all live in a world that we create, our perceptions, our priorities, the things we look at when we enter a room. If you're a furniture designer, you look at the furniture. If you're a hairdresser, you look at people's hair, pay more attention to the things. So we're all walking around in these individual worlds, right? He creates worlds like on the film set. So when he did The New World, he makes sure that his camera can move in 365 degrees and all he can see is the film set. He can't, there's no behind the scenes. He builds it in that way. Jack Fisk, his production designer, builds it so he can do that. So that when I go back to The New World or I go back to The Thin Red Line, I don't think I'm going to watch a story. I'm going to enter that world and perceive a world in a different way than I'm used to perceiving it. And so I am going to pay closer attention to nature, to the sun, to the weather, to the light. That maybe in my normal life, I have my headphones on, I have my sunglasses on, I'm not paying, and it draws me back to a closer attention to a kind of more authentic being. And that sounds really grand, and I mean it to, because I think it is a very valuable thing that his cinema brings to us, and it's why I keep going back to them, and why if you love his films, you do go back to them, because it's not a case of, oh, I've seen this story before. It's a case of, I want to go and live in Virginia at the time John Smith arrived, or I want to go and see. And also, it has a tragic component, which is it's about people creating worlds which are destroyed. The Europeans arrive and destroy it. Badlands, they create a tree house in the midst of murder. Thin Red Line, it's a paradise, but there's a Second World War arriving. Tree of Life, childhood, it's the street. The street you live on is your entire world. You can turn around. That film, they just blocked off Smithville, which is a little town in Texas, and they blocked off like 3 streets. And they would have postmen delivering letters and people wandering around and everything. They could film out of the windows and everywhere. It didn't, it was a street in the 1950s for the 3 months they were filming that movie.
I know this is an unfair question, but do you have a favorite of Malick's films yourself?
I think, like Stanley Kubrick, say, or the Coen brothers, or any of those great movie makers, the one you're watching tends to become your favorite movie. You're sort of watching, I think this is my favorite movie. But if I had to sort of, like a sort of gun to my head, I think Days of Heaven is just a work of perfection. I don't think there's a shot that doesn't belong in that film. I find it profoundly moving. I think it's funny, which sometimes gets lost.
Yeah,
talking
it's
about Malick.
Often overlooked.
Exactly. I think that Linda Manz's voiceover is really funny and really, I love it. Has real character to it. And it's just there's something magical about that film, and of course it's shot in the magic hour, so it connects to my book.
Of course. And so it's a big recommendation to read your book. Where can you get it, John?
You can get it from anywhere books are sold online. Order it online. It's available in some bookshops. Every now and again, I get a. I mean, of course, it's a sort of fairly niche. You know, film directors don't tend
It's
to
yeah.
be on the table of Waterstones in England or the bestsellers
But niche
bookshops.
is good these days.
Yes, yeah. There are some great places that I've. There's an American bookshop in Amsterdam. I found a copy and stuff like that. So it is out in the wild, but you can order it online, and there'll be a paperback version coming soon, and there will be a French translation in November.
Oh, right. So, and you're not done writing books. You're actually coming out with a new book in on August
Yeah,
1st.
August 1st, we have a new book. I have a new book called Darkness Visible: The Cinema of Jonathan Glazer. And again, this is another
The
filmmaker.
director of Zone of Interest,
Zone of Interest,
Skin,
Sexy Beast,
Skin,
Under the Skin,
Under the Skin.
and
Yeah,
Birth.
yeah.
Four films, so very small, tight filmography. But of all those four films, again, asking, what would be your favorite film of Jonathan Glazer? They're kind of all pretty much masterpieces, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what people. Very different book. It's not a biography. It's more a critical study, and it's more like a pop feel to it. Because he did music videos and commercials
Yeah.
as well. I've put all that in. So I'm really excited to see what people will think of it.
Very exciting. I will look forward to your next book. But for now, I mean, dive into the world of Terrence Malick, read John's books, or go watch Malick's films, of
Exactly.
course.
Yeah. I'll do both. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, John.